What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Flex. And week one is done. You've either won or you've lost. And unfortunately for your boy, I took a goose egg in week one. I put Corey Davis in my lineup, and he put up a goose egg for me. Really damaged my week that week. And the only person I could blame is Corey Davis, because I'm not going to blame myself. I put together a good lineup, and I don't know why Corey Davis did not catch any passes, but he did not. In a game where they dominated, he did not catch any passes. It was pretty weird, pretty disappointing. I got a B for my matchup. Didn't realize we did that. But anyway, so what I want to do is kind of help you guys move along in your league. It's week one, so things have happened, some big plays. And what I want to talk about is guys you should add, guys you should drop, and who you should start this week. And so I'm going to jump right into it. Guys to add. The number one add for the week is Hollywood Marquise Brown. Antonio Brown's cousin, plays for the Baltimore Ravens, and he had a monster week, 2 touchdowns. One for 85 yards. He was just a monster and looking like he might become Lamar Jackson's favorite target. This kid looked really good. They're getting a strong return on their rookie draft pick. So I liked him a lot. A big surprise, another guy I think you should add is John Ross. I'm hoping that week one wasn't a flash in the pan. But John Ross was looking excellent. He was looking like that first-round draft pick that you always hoped he'd be. I believe he went from being on the bubble of being cut to now becoming a star wide receiver. I mean, he outshined Tyler Boyd, which I did not believe to be possible. So look out for John Ross. I suggest trying to add him onto your team. And then next on the list is A.J. Brown. He gained Marcus Mariota's trust in week one. Not a huge game, but he did exceptionally well. He hit the 100-yard mark and had a few good receptions. Definitely got you into double digits if you started him, or whether you had him on your bench, I don't know. But for a lot of leagues, he's on the waiver wire. I suggest snatching him up ASAP. Tevin Coleman goes down. Who's next in line? Matt Breida. If he's on the waiver wire and you're in need of a running back, Matt Breida is the man you want on your roster. Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon sprained his ankle. That is another player who hurt me in one of my other leagues. I had Joe Mixon. He goes out in the first quarter, I think 3.8 points, so it wasn't really looking good. Giovanni Bernard is someone you might want to stash on your bench. They're feeling confident that Joe Mixon can start week 2, and he has a good matchup. But there's always a risk when it comes to running backs. So if you want to handcuff Giovanni Bernard, now is a good time to pick him up. Courtland Sutton. He was a guy that I thought was going to be highly targeted in drafts, but not so much. He's definitely on the waiver wire, and he was the clear-cut number one target for Joe Flacco. Courtland Sutton is definitely a good wide receiver to snatch up before anybody else does. One wide receiver didn't have an excellent performance, but looked to be his quarterback's favorite target, and that's Keyshawn Johnson for Arizona. Kyler Murray, it felt like he was always looking to Johnson to get rid of that ball. He had better targets when going at Larry Fitzgerald, but at the end of the day, he was looking Keyshawn Johnson's way a lot. So that's a good guy to maybe stash in if you're in a 14-team league, 12 even to 16-team league. Look out for Keyshawn Johnson. Next, a guy that I think has definitely slipped out of people's notice, and that's Preston Williams. I've loved this kid all preseason long. He's looked excellent on a team that is abysmal. He is, I think, the only shining light of this entire offense. So look to Preston Williams to be the only guy who's going to get some work done on this awful Miami offense. Once again, if you're in a 12 to 16 team league, this is a guy you should absolutely be looking to hunt down. Terrell Williams for the Oakland Raiders jumps up into that number 1 spot. Had a lot of work come his way. Scored a touchdown. He was looking pretty good. I'm not a big fan of Terrell Williams. I think he's a one-trick pony, but he had a few tricks going up against Denver. Once again, a team that isn't really that dangerous, but Terrell Williams, definitely worth a look in your 10 and 12 team leagues. Jamison Crowder, a guy who for some reason I thought Jamison Crowder was injured for the season, or at least 4 to 6 weeks. I don't know how I missed this, but he came in and he showed up for the Jets. At first, I didn't even realize it was him. I'm like, who's number 82? Did they sign somebody or whatever? And then I realized it was Jamison Crowder, and I was like, wow, like that's the best. I feel like the Jets against the Bills was the best Jamison Crowder I've seen in a long time, if not ever. John Brown looked to snatch up that number 1 wide receiver position for the Buffalo Bills. So he's definitely a guy to look at, especially in your 12 to 16 team leagues. Darius Geis out. He got the knee injury. No timetable for the return yet. So that means Adrian Peterson is going to step into that role. He should be on the waiver wire due to the fact that he was listed as out and inactive last week. He's going to come in. He's going to step in and take that lead running back role. And he's Adrian Peterson. So whenever he gets the ball, magic can happen. DK Metcalf, a huge surprise to me, looked to be Russell Wilson's favorite target throughout the game, and he was looking fairly good. Definitely not the highest level, but he was looking good, and he was catching the ball when it was thrown his way. So once again, if you're in a deeper league, DK Metcalf is looking really good. Randall Cobb, what a surprise. I'm not completely surprised because I've always liked Randall Cobb. I think he's a gritty slot receiver, but he steps into the Cowboys offense and he shows out week 1. I believe he scored 2 touchdowns. It was a big day for Randall Cobb. I would not expect to continue getting this return every single week, but he's one of those guys you can plug in the flex when you're not sure who to put in, and if you cross your fingers, maybe, just maybe, he'll get you into double digits on multiple weeks. This is a high-powered offense for the Cowboys. He is the number 3 wide receiver, and he is very reliable. He's a nice veteran. I would not be afraid to own him. And then, pleasant surprise, Carlos Hyde. He comes on to the Houston Texans, and he gets that starting running back role, and he's making the best of it in week 1 at the very least. He's getting his touches in. He's making his moves. He's making his cuts. He's breaking tackles. He looked excellent. This is probably his last shot at the NFL, at least in a starting role. So snatching up Carlos Hyde can mean money for you. And then finally, Jets defense was shockingly good. The only problem is C.J. Mosley gets hurt in the game, and that is the shining light of their defense. I don't know how much time he's going to miss. He's going to be having an MRI, but with C.J. Mosley, without C.J. Mosley, I still think this defense is exceptionally dangerous, and depending on matchups, I think you can plug these guys in week to week. Now, players and defenses that need to be dropped. First off on my list is Darius Geis, and people might be like, oh man, he just got injured, maybe he might come back. I don't think he's worth the risk. You know what I'm saying? You drafted him, or maybe you didn't draft him because you drafted after he got injured, or you drafted after he got injured and you weren't paying attention and you drafted him anyway. But Darius Geis has been nothing but disappointment. Puts up 6.8 points for you, gets hurt, and I didn't play him, but if you did play him, you were disappointed in what happened. I don't think he's worth a waiver slot. A roster slot. I will say this. If you have an IR slot in your roster that you don't have anybody better in, go ahead and throw him into the IR spot. I'm not mad about that at all. Go ahead and do it. But if you don't have it, or if you already have, say, Melvin Gordon in it, drop Darius Geis on the waiver wire. There's plenty of guys up there that are going to put up points for you right away. And then I can't. The only reason why I could see you keeping Darius Geis is if he is one of your only 3 running backs, and you're hoping he'll come back in time for a bye week. So Other than that, I feel like he's a useless player to keep on your roster. I think anybody who picks them up is literally wasting roster slots. And you can disagree with that, and you can think that you have your reasons, but at the end of the day, Darius Geis is a waste of a roster slot. Devin Funchess, broken shoulder. Definitely drop him. That's useless. Nick Foles, broken clavicle. They don't know how long he's going to be out. He's on short-term injured reserve. I don't know why you would have him anyway, but if you do, time to drop him. Michael Badgley, if you haven't figured it out already, he's injured. He injured his groin. Definitely not worth holding a roster slot for a kicker. So drop him on the waiver wire. If he gets healthy, hopefully you're the first person to notice and pick him up. Albert Wilson, a guy that I was really high on before the season started, thought he was going to do great. He had a great beginning to the season last year until he got hurt, and wouldn't you know it, he gets hurt again. If you happen to have drafted him or picked him up in hopes that you might get some flashes of what happened last year, he is a dud, and you should drop him ASAP. James Washington. I know a lot of people were expecting big things from James Washington. He had a decent preseason, but after that showing against the New England Patriots, I do not believe in this guy, and I didn't draft him. He wasn't on my radar, and I would say drop him ASAP. Quincy Enunwa, once again, another guy not worth holding a roster slot for. I just don't think that he's going to get the job done early in the season. He might be worth some looks later on as the season progresses. Maybe this Jets offense gets a little bit better. And they start spreading the ball around a little bit more, but Jamison Crowder is number one. Chris Herndon comes back in 3 weeks. He's going to be number two. Robbie Anderson. They just acquired Demaryius Thomas in a sixth-round pick in 2021 from the New England Patriots. So Demaryius Thomas is going to step in. Quincy Enunwa should no longer be on your squad. Nelson Aguilar, not looking very good. Definitely would think you should drop him. Robbie Anderson, I drafted Robbie Anderson thinking that he was going to come in and just make waves and recoup from last year's blunders, but sure enough, he came in and did nothing. I'm not going to say it's all his fault. I know that there were some passes that were not thrown correctly, but I just don't believe Robbie Anderson's worth a roster slot. So I dump him. But that's just me. If you want to hold on to him, I guess it doesn't make too much difference. But there's guys out there that you can pick up. Like I said, Marquise Brown, John Ross, A.J. Brown, Matt Breida, Cortland Sutton. All these guys are going to do better than Robbie Anderson. So I would drop him and I'd pick up one of these better wide receivers and not worry about somebody else picking up the trash like New Hampshire Mike. All right. So, guys, I think, there's obvious guys you're going to start every single week. We know that. And I don't have to mention those guys. I don't even have to tell you who those guys are. If you don't know who those guys are, you shouldn't be playing fantasy football. So, guys who I think have good matchups this particular week, guys that I think are worthy of a start. Let's start right from the beginning with Chris Godwin. They're going up against the Carolina Panthers, and I think that Mike Evans is going to get that number one cover guy. I think Chris Godwin is going to open the field up. I think he's going to become Jameis Winston's, maybe not his favorite target, but his number one target in this particular week. That won't always be the same, but I think Chris Godwin is going to earn number one targets in this week. So definitely throw him in your lineup. I just traded for him. I traded Kerryon Johnson to get Chris Godwin because my running backs were stacked. My wide receivers weren't. So I got Chris Godwin, and he's going to be an every week start for me. I'm not saying he is an every week start. I'm just going to say for me, he's an every week start. A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans. And the Tennessee Titans are going up against the Colts. And the Colts secondary, I'm not really too afraid of it. He's earning Mariota's trust. I think that, Corey Davis is going to get that number one guy. They have to also worry about Delaney Walker. I think A.J. Brown once again takes advantage of this, and I think he scores at least a touchdown, if not two, and I think he goes for over 100 yards once again. New England Patriots wide receivers. Point blank, period. Now, when I say that, I mean Antonio Brown, I mean Josh Gordon, and I mean Julian Edelman. I'm even going to say James White. Just because of the simple fact that it's Miami Dolphins and they absolutely suck. This is a terrible team. Nobody on that team wants to even play for them. Players are already calling their agents and requesting trades. So with that being said, if you have any of those guys, you should start them. I might even roll the dice and pick up Jacoby Myers and start him. That might be a little much, but what I'm saying is those three guys, absolute starts. I wouldn't even be afraid to start Sony Michel. Yeah, Sony Michel didn't have a big game last week, but that's because the pass game was just working so great that they didn't have to run the ball. And that could happen against Miami, but I think that their defensive line is nothing to be afraid of. And I think everybody gets their touches in this game. I think maybe everybody scores a touchdown in this game. I think Tom Brady is going to have the best game he'll have all season come Sunday. So New England, in general, even the defense, play it all. New England, New England, New England. John Brown, the Bills. Who are the Bills facing? The Bills are facing the Giants. Giants defense is awful. And even though the Bills had a terrible start to week 1, they finished and they won that game. 16 unanswered points, and leading the charge was Josh Allen, and his number 1 target, John Brown. So if you have that flex position open, or if you have really crappy wide receivers, take a shot on John Brown. I think this is a game where he can put up and maybe score a touchdown. On the flip side of that, the Bills are facing the Giants. I think Evan Ingram has a repeat performance. He had an excellent week against the Cowboys. I don't expect it to be the exact same performance, but I do think he scores at least a touchdown, and I do think he goes for over 100 yards. And I'm going to say at least five catches, so that's going to be good points for you. Michael Gallup looking incredible in his second year, starting with the Dallas Cowboys. Had a lot of great passes, scored a touchdown, looking exceptional. I think this offense is going to be the closest thing to the New England Patriots. It's so much talent. Plus, they got the best running back in the NFL with Ezekiel Elliott. Even though Ezekiel Elliott did not look as good as we hoped he would, but he didn't practice with the team almost the whole offseason. So it is to be expected that he doesn't have the best game of his career in his first start. So I definitely like all the wide receivers from Dallas, but Michael Gallup, I think, Amari Cooper's a must start, and I think Michael Gallup this week is going to be excellent as well. Sammy Watkins, wow. If you were lucky enough to put Sammy Watkins in your lineup this week, you probably won. Unless your team was absolute garbage. If you played Sammy Watkins, you probably won your week. And if you didn't play Sammy Watkins, you are probably kicking yourself in the butt. Like, you must be so pissed right now. I don't have Sammy Watkins, so I felt good about that. But with that being said, a guy who I don't really trust that much, he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver. Tyreek Hill is out for an indefinite amount of weeks. He did manage to avoid IR, but how many weeks will he be out? I have no clue. We'll have to see. But Sammy Watkins is now the must start. He is the number 1 target, and he had an excellent week 1. So let's see how that goes. Who are they even playing? Kansas City Chiefs are playing the Raiders. Now, Raiders defense isn't no slouches, but they're going to let up a lot of yards. Sammy Watkins is going to go off once more. Waller, tight end from Oakland. I'm really liking him. They're going up against the Chiefs. I don't know how well the Chiefs do against tight ends, but I'm going to imagine that Waller's going to have a decent game. So he's a guy that you might want to add to your roster. And if your tight end is, say, Eric Ebron, maybe you think about trying to make a switch out and put in Waller and see what happens. Saints and Rams wide receivers, Michael Thomas, Taquan Smith, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp. I think all these guys, and Jared Cook, tight end. I think all these guys should be played. The Saints have been giving up plenty of points. giving up plenty of yards. You've seen the game against the Texans. You know, Deshaun Watson went off against them. I think that this is going to be another back and forth. This is going to be a revenge matchup. The Saints going for blood. The Rams want to prove that they can beat the Saints. This is going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath. Both teams are going to show out. Both teams are going to go so hard. You're probably going to see a fight. It's going to be a dirty, dirty game. But I believe it's high-flying, high-scoring, high-octane offense. Please play everybody from both these teams. Jared Goff, Drew Brees, Todd Gurley, and Alvin Kamara. Those two are obvious. Play those guys. This game is going to be insane. Insane. Insane in the membrane. Insane in the brain. It's going to be insane. Next, I have Eagles offense. And I more mean wide receiver, tight end. They are going up against the Falcons. Falcons have been playing like doo-doo. Only 1 week, yeah, but they didn't win a preseason game. The Falcons are terrible. They were terrible last year. They're going to be terrible this year. The Falcons are terrible. They have all these weapons, but a coach that doesn't know what to do with them. They have on paper what should be a fairly good defense, but the coaches don't know what to do with them. This is a terribly coached team, and I expect the Eagles to dominate. So be prepared for lights out. Jamison Crowder for the New York Jets. Who are the Jets facing? Let's look. They're going up against the Browns. Now, the Browns do have an excellent defense, but what happened against the Titans? That Browns defense got doo-dooed on. The Browns had, I think the pressure for the Browns was too much. And fantasy-wise, it was straight duds across the board. And I don't believe it's going to be duds across the board, which is why I'm not saying play all the Jets or the Jets defense. I'm just saying play Jamison Crowder. I mean, obviously, you're going to play Le'Veon Bell as well. But Jamison Crowder, I think he's going to get his touches. I think he is going to become Sam Darnold's security blanket until Chris Herndon comes back from suspension. So expect good things from Jamison Crowder in week 2. Jarvis Landry, you know, they're going up against the Jets. I think that Jarvis Landry is going to do well because I believe Odell Beckham gets that double coverage, leaving Jarvis Landry in single coverage, and Jarvis Landry knows how to run routes. So I like that matchup. I also like David Njoku, and I like Nick Chubb. I think that these guys are going to turn it around this week against the Jets. The Jets defense is looking tough, but I think their defense is good enough to stop this offense from doing too much damage, allowing the run game to get going and the pass game to follow right behind it. I'm afraid of this name, but I like the matchup. So the Bears are going up against, who are they going up against? I should have wrote it down. But the Bears are going up against the Broncos, and we saw how well the Raiders ran against the Broncos. I feel like David Montgomery is going to get his opportunity to shine. The Bears need to understand that if they don't continuously give if they don't continue to give David Montgomery his reps, he cannot get going. He needs the reps to get himself going, and this is not an offense to be afraid of. I think they're going to be taking down Joe Flacco all day. I believe that the Broncos are going to be so far behind that the Bears are just going to run the ball to kill clock. David Montgomery is going to take advantage of that, and he's going to get a lot of garbage time points. And I'm going to follow that up with Singletary, once again going up against the Giants. Not very great at stopping the run. Singletary looked good this past week against the Jets. So I like him, play him in. I already said Sony Michel, put Sony Michel in, take a risk on him, throw him in your flex. I think he'll do well for you. And Matt Breida, San Francisco 49ers are going up against the Bengals. The Bengals are terrible. I don't believe that their defensive line is anything to be afraid of. Matt Breida is stepping into that starting role, and I think he gets his touches. I think he does very well, and I think he puts up the points for you. So definitely go that way. But week 1 is down, I want to check something real quick. So in my league, I want to give a shout out to my main league, the highest scoring team in my league was Icon Menace. That goes to Kevin, 169.30 points, going up against the only person, he went up against TNT Hot Rods, that's Neff, and TNT Hot Rods put up 153.32 points. Literally, he went up against the only person in my league who could have beat him. Actually, the person who beat me could have beat him. So the person who loses to Icon Menace put up the third highest points. So that sucks when you put up such high points and then you get beat. I mean, myself, I lost to TDs and Tiaras. Yep, I lost to a girl. Nothing wrong with losing to a girl. She's the only girl in the league. She's the first lady of the league, Michelle. Technically, she's drafted a championship team already for her ex-beau. And he got the trophy this year with a team she drafted. She comes in, drafts this year, and whoops me 156.64 to 146.92. Hurt my feelings. So that's that. Maybe if I have time, let's see if I can throw one more in there. I got a second league, the Elite League. And let's check this matchup real quick. See who got the highest score. And that, holy crap. Mo TDs, that's Julian, my boy AC, his friend, joined my league, 228.66 points. I gotta look at this real quick. Lamar Jackson, 43. Juju, 17. Thielen, 15. McCaffrey, 50. Eckler, 45. Hooper, 19. D. Johnson, 6. God. Holy crap. He had Marlon Mack on his bench. If he'd have put him in the flex, it would have been crazy. Anyway, that's all I have for you this week. Best of luck. May the odds be ever in your favor. I'm Craig. This is The Flex. Check you out next week. Have a good night.